One of the big steps in solving my depression was realizing how much I would use going to the parties and living the life as an excuse to not face my feelings. Like, for example, I thought I needed to buy some clothes or some shoes because I didn't feel the same as others. I didn't feel like I was enough. I didn't feel happy. And yeah, having the latest shoes or a nice piece of clothing really gonna impact my life. I'm gonna buy it and be happy forever. No, not really. It's just a moment. It feels great, but after a few weeks, that feeling goes away. Like when you buy some shoes, you protect them like they are your baby. You protect them from the rain, the dirt, and good friends. But after a few weeks, you stop caring really. And you go back to the life you were in before. And if that life was bad, even worse. No wonder you are depressed. You are running a race with no prize or finish line. 3 days of slaving away for 3 days of happiness, endlessly. That isn't a decent life, and your brain knows it. That's why you are depressed. So no, buying stuff isn't the answer to happiness. And if you really reflect on your experiences, if all the stuff you said you needed were just an excuse, you come to the conclusion that you were just running away, denying your feelings about the life you have. That isn't a life of your choice, but a reaction to an emotion. That's why detaching yourself from stuff is so good for your depression. Most of the things you say you need, you don't really need it. But that's why the previous steps in this guide were so hard. Dropping addictions, cold showers, letting go of people who don't serve you. It was all for these moments. To face the biggest enemy you will have in your life, yourself. You have done the hardest things that most people will never do. And you kept doing it. So what more there is to fear really? So start asking the real important questions like, why do you feel this miserable? Where does this come from? What can you change and what you can't? That is something only you can answer. No one knows it better than yourself. The key for your depression is inside you. And unless you accept who you are without the stuff around you, you will always feel like you are missing something. But I will give you my story so you can maybe get a glimpse of the key. I'm a first-generation immigrant, meaning I was raised in a country which is not my own. Becoming culturally mixed, but never really being one or the other. And that made me feel like I didn't have a home to go back to, like everyone else. I didn't feel I had the choice to even fail. The options were either I would succeed or I would succeed. And don't misunderstand this. It made me far more capable than the norm. But it also made me live life on survival mode without me having control over it. I never really found someone I could communicate on the same level because others weren't living the same reality as me. And the branded stuff, the parties, and the life was just me trying to find someone, turning away from my real self, and being with other miserable people who were just like me, doing the same stuff as me, wasting all my money, not for me, but for others. At some point, I realized that wasn't a life I wanted for myself. I didn't want to feel like I was missing something. I didn't want to be part of this eternal rat wheel where we drive ourselves miserable to make some pocket change and then buy stuff to justify why we are so miserable, still never really feeling satisfied, feeling like I was stuck in the same place, just with more stuff around me. Another way to explain this, if you live in the real world and you suffer from these dreads about your economic future, and you are always anxious about not having enough, just spend less. Don't buy it unless you really need it. And no, I'm not talking about your Starbucks, the latest trends, or your weekend fix. I'm talking about only spending on the stuff you really need, like food, water, internet. I think that's worth the sacrifice, not being stressed, not running after stuff, and not playing the game of who can impress who the most. Just either working on your happiness or being happy. That will improve your life far more than anything you can buy. Instead of living 90% of your week miserable to get 10% of joy, just improve the other 90%, even if just for a bit. Seriously, whatever you can drop from your daily spending, the better your life will look ahead. You won't be anxious all the time, so you won't have depressive episodes either. It's your happiness and you shouldn't gamble with that. And I'm not throwing stuff in the air. This is actually economic teachings I learned. You only feel like you are lacking money because the more you make, the more you spend. That's called spending inflation. But if you can keep your spending to a fixed point, the leftover money will just keep piling up. And if you learn investing, that pile will keep growing and growing without you doing anything. That's the first step to economic freedom. But of course, this isn't easy, because 90% of the people around you will do the opposite, and they will pressure you into doing the same. But that's why in my previous videos I talk about people and social media. It was for you to actually have control of who's around you and improve your life in the process. You must resist the collective pressure in order to attain economic freedom. I'm telling you this because I believe you deserve a better life, and you already have the tools for it. You just need to use them better, instead of just suffering every month and wishing for a miracle. Now, let's talk about what this does for you socially. Like I said before, people who are too materialistic, they are just a bunch of unsolved problems, and that will eventually bleed on you. And you, as a depressed person, should you be around more sick people? Of course not. Misery plus misery only leads to bitterness, complaining, and more conflicts. And you don't have the energy for that. So just learn to let go of all of this, trying to impress people who don't care. Always being in this FOMO sphere, while you just fall deeper and deeper into depression in the quietest moments. I know this from experience, and it isn't worth it. You are you, not the stuff you own. And trying to have friendships based on the stuff you own just brings more people who want to use you, and will be gone the moment you lose it all. So if you have a lot of people around you who try to manipulate you and make you feel guilty about stuff you didn't do, know that this is the way you get to these people. It's also living by wearing a mask, lying to yourself and others that that version is you, which honestly is tiring. Again, no wonder you are depressed, putting this facade to get people you don't need in your life and running away from your true self. I will give you a better view. Either they like you or they don't. Instead of all that work, you can just accept this. There's like 8 billion people in this world. Someone is bound to like you, so you don't really have to be worried about these kind of things. And the good friends will show up even if it's just to throw rocks at the lake. So stopping this game doesn't only do good for you, but also creates this chance to know who your true friends are. The ones who accept you without asking you to be more. The only thing you have to do is nothing. Allow the chances to appear and let people make their own choices and judge them based on what's better for you. And that's what people who care about you want you to do. And living a life chasing stuff to impress people who don't care isn't enough to explain your life. You are more than this, so start seeking it.